Welcome to Brett Finch Uncensored. Brett Finch Uncensored is proudly brought to you by PointsBet. Check out PointsBet's great odds and offers. So download the PointsBet app today and always remember to gamble responsibly. Curtis Scott, welcome to Uncensored.
Thanks, mate.
How's
Thanks for having me.
How's things, mate? It's been a frustrating year.
Yeah,
tough year, different year.
Has been a little bit, mate. There's been a few little distractions there. I'm just happy to be out of the bubble now and put the feet up and relax, mate.
Well, mate, we'll go into that down the track. But thanks for joining me. The missus seen you out of the bubble on Instagram because she's just all over Instagram. I thought, it'd be great to catch up with you. And I've moved down to Carringbass, but you're the Shire king. The prodigal son's returned to the Shire. You grew up in the Shire, or mates in the Shire?
Yeah, I've spent a bit of time under your wing, mate, but now we're back in the Shire. You can come under mine.
I know. We'll like to get permission to move in to the Shire, but it must be. What was it like growing up in the Shire?
No, it was good, mate. I grew up over in Bundina, so I was a little bit out of the way.
Yeah.
It was just a small town. You have all your mates, you go around, knock around with all your mates every day, and then, it was good. Everyone knows each other, and, it's a good spot to grow up.
And who did you support growing up? Was it the Sharks?
I supported the Bulldogs.
The Dogs?
Yeah.
Who were your heroes? Do you have any heroes? Who are the players you looked up to? Maybe even in other sports, not necessarily NRL, but...
I don't know why. I think about it today still. I just think, I don't know, just like the Willie Masons.
Really? I didn't get a run there?
Just the Dogs of War.
Yeah.
That period, I was only young, and I think it might have just been the colours as well. But, I was a massive
Do you remember
Dogs
their
fan.
last grand final they won?
What was
What
it?
would you mean, about 6?
Yeah,
2004, 7 years old?
Yeah, I would have been young.
Geez, you're making me feel old.
Far out. But
I played in the game, we got beat. By the Dogs. I was in the Roosters team, yeah.
Oh, yeah, see, I had no idea.
Yeah, thank God. But you're the Dogs, you supported the Dogs.
Yeah, that was the team, mate. I don't know if it was the colours, but that was the team growing up.
Mate, Endeavour Sports High. I went to Erindale College in Canberra. You're obviously down in Canberra now, but that was a great school for sport. Endeavour Sports High has really forged a name for itself, especially in rugby league. What was that like going there? How were you as a student, for starters?
I wasn't probably the best student. I just pretty much turned up there wanting to play footy every day, and in the classrooms I was probably a little bit like yourself, mate. Just
get distracted easily.
Just get distracted and not listening very well. But the school was unreal for me. I was a kind of little ratty kid from Bundina coming over and didn't like listening or doing things or doing what I was told. But there's a few, mentors at that school that, I'm still close with today.
Yeah.
And probably if it wasn't for them or going to that school, I probably would have never laced up a footy boot.
Really?
Yeah. That's
such big influence, the guys there?
Yeah, it was a massive influence for me.
Who are those guys?
Dave Howard, he's the assistant coach for Cronulla. He was he was the head of the program there, and I think he spoke to me on a daily basis, telling me to pull my head in, but he got through to me in the end, and he was unreal for us.
Was that you just didn't take footy? You obviously, we'll get into it, but you're obviously a superstar teenager. So in high school, you're obviously going to have some talent, or you knew you could play the game. Was it you just had your work ethic wasn't there, or you just had other interests as a teenage boy,
I just kind of had a few distractions, but to be honest, I never really was that good. I come into year 7 and I was built like a minute to 6, so shoulders on me like a brown snake.
I still am.
And so am I. And I was coming off the bench onto the wing, like I was playing that role. So if we were up by 20 and the game was over, he'd send me on. And I'd done that all the way up to about year 9, and I started to feel out a little bit. And it wasn't until year 10 and like Harold Matts and stuff come around, and I remember just turning up to the morning training, and it was only for year 11 and 12 kids to go and train. And I used to go to work with my dad in the morning, and I'd turn up to training, and they'd always say, "Mate, you're not supposed to be here, you're not allowed to be here. Don't turn up again." And then the following week I'd
turn up.
I'd be the first one down there with my footy boots on and my jumper, and looking forward to training. And then they just kind of gave up, telling me to go home and stop training. They just let me train, and then I ended up playing a few games in the open side there, and that was probably the turning point from where I just was so stubborn. I didn't like to take no for an answer, and I just, kept turning up, and they just gave up on me and just said, fine, you can train with us.
You wore them down.
Yeah,
it's like I used to be when I used to try and pick up girls back in the day. They just go, we just give up, stop talking. Endeavour Sports High, you've had a bit of success there through the schoolboy, the national schoolboy competition.
Yep.
He's won the title?
Yeah, we won it in 2014. So we had a pretty red hot side, and I remember versing the Patrician brothers in the grand final, and they had a red hot side as well. They had a fair few people that have kicked on and still playing today, and they were like our rivalry coming through, and we ended up getting the win, and we had Luciano Leilua, we had Jermaine Isaaco, had John Olive. There are a few boys that have kicked on and played, but I know we just had a good culture there, and we just we're real close mates, and we all just love playing footy, and it was good.
Well, you said you weren't such a good kid around year 7, year 8, but the Australian schoolboys, you make the Australian schoolboys team. Not only do you make the Australian schoolboys team in 2015, you're named player of the carnival, the national carnival. For someone in year 8 or 9 who wasn't that flash, you certainly made up for lost time pretty quickly.
Yeah, I remember sitting in maths class, and I had a reader writer next to me, trying to keep me in line, and I remember she was saying, "Oh, what are you going to do with yourself when you grow up?" And I remember just saying, "Oh, I'm going to play in the NRL." And at the time, like, no one would have thought, or I was no standout or anything like that. She just was done the old, there's 2% of players, of this age, or even 1% of people kick on and play NRL. And I remember just being, why can't I be that? Yeah. Why can't I be that 1%? And I think just from then, I was just probably so stubborn, and I just like to prove everyone wrong that, I could do it. And I still kind of continue doing that now.
Yeah, certainly proving plenty of people wrong, mate. The Australian schoolboys team, did you go on a tour? Did you play anyone?
New Zealand come to
Australia.
Australia. We played up in Suncorp Stadium, and then one game at Wynnum Manly there, and that was a good little experience for me. It was something that I set that year to play. I ended up getting knocked back the year before, and I was absolutely filthy with it all. And I come back into my right age and ended up getting picked, and it was something that.
Who was in the team? How many players going to the NRL?
We had Nathan Cleary.
Yeah, he's not too bad.
Yeah,
he's all right. He's going okay, just okay at the moment. He's just on about 10-year, $1,000 million deal.
We had
1,000 million. Is that even a number?
Yeah, 10,000 million. We had Brayley. We had Ruben Cotter, Adam Kieran, Scott Drinkwater.
So plenty there.
It was a pretty good side, and we ended up. I think we towed them up by 80 in the first game, and then the second game was a little bit heated, and wasn't too bad.
Kiwis thought we're not going to beat us, we'll try and bash us.
Yeah, that's what they did.
Mate, the same year, 2015, you captained the Sharks SG ball team to a premiership, and from that. I remember at the time, and it's only a few years ago, you're the hottest property on the market, and I'm talking NRL market. You have 11 clubs chasing you. I know you're not going to blow your own trumpet, but I will. You were huge news, and I obviously still had a lot to do with Melbourne. I'd only just retired, so I knew how they were going after you, but you'd had 11 clubs. It was rumoured nearly every club was after you. And to get your signature, I remember it was a huge queue for Melbourne. You do sign with Melbourne, but just take a step back. What was that like? You're only probably 16, 17 at the time, and having all these clubs come after you.
Yeah, I was kind of just in my own little world. I remember I was just loving life pretty much, mate. I was just playing footy and enjoying the time with my mates. We're going well, in the SG ball, and I remember just having a good little crew. We'd play, and after every game, we'd all go for a beer together, and I was just stuck in that, and I was just just enjoying everything. I was at school and things were just working and flowing, and it was pretty surreal when I went down. We had a carnival, and then it came out on the news and stuff like that. I didn't really know how to take it, and it was just a fair bit of hype, but I kind of just ran with it and just enjoyed doing what I was doing. I wasn't really looking outside of the box and stuff like that. I was just, enjoying what I was doing with my mates, and ended up picking Melbourne.
Why did you pick Melbourne?
I just thought, it was just had to kind of get out of the Sutherland Shire and just put my head down and focus, because at the time I would have had when I was starting to enjoy hanging out with my mates more than playing footy.
Well, you had 11 clubs. Did you lean on anyone during this time? Because it's a big decision for a young kid, and you're still only young. You're still a baby, 22, but you're younger then. Did you lean on anyone or to help you through the process to choose?
Not really. My manager at the time was, my manager now as well, but he was unreal. He's he pretty much come up with the decision of getting me out of Sydney just to, focus and just not have so many distractions. And I was literally nearly about to sign with the Cowboys. So
that's getting out of Sydney, all right? You can't get much further out of Sydney. Unless they're going to send you to Christmas Island or something.
That's how things are looking,
Jesus.
mate. That's how things are looking.
You must have been going bad. Can we get him out of Sydney? I'm thinking maybe Newcastle or Wollongong. No, we're going to put you in Townsville.
Yeah.
But you ended Melbourne. You ended up going to Melbourne.
Yeah, so I went up to Townsville and I ended up loving it. I was loving it up there. It was a good spot, and sitting down having a beer with my manager and the recruitment officer, and we were sitting there chatting, and I was sold on the joint. I was nearly about to sign, and then my manager said Melbourne are interested, and he said it's obviously a good club and there's a fair few people that have moved on in the outside backs, and he asked if, I'll go down there and just cover all my bases and just check it out. And I went down there, and I just loved the place from the moment I got there. And I remember they took me out in the city. They knew how to get.
They knew which buttons to press.
Yeah, they knew which buttons to press. So they took me out down Chapel Street.
Yeah.
And
who took you out? What was the pitch like?
So I had my old man down there that he loves it, and we had who was it? Matty Adamson. Yeah. He was down there as well.
At the time,
and he loved the beer as well, so he took us down there.
Did you speak to Bellio?
I ended up getting around to speaking to Bellio, but I think I was only about 17. I wasn't even 18 yet, and I was
sneaking in nightclubs.
It wasn't nightclubs, just a bar and stuff like that. So, and then I ended up catching up with Bellio the next day, and I was shit scared. And
I still am.
Yeah, so
I retired 7 years ago, and I still shit myself. How hard was it moving to Melbourne at such a young age? Like it's a big step moving interstate for anyone at any age, it was pretty full on. I just finished school and finished my HSC and jumped on a plane and went straight down. And I was lucky enough my mum come down with me for the first year, so that made it much easier on me. And how good at mums? They're the best, aren't they?
Yeah, so she looked after me down there just for the first year, and then she ended up moving out, and I ended up moving into the pad with a few of the boys and stuff.
Who's your gang?
So we had Brendan Smith.
The old cheese, Wombat block of cheese, yeah. How was it? I'll keep going. Who else is it?
We had Scotty Drinkwater and Brodie Croft, so we had a good little crew there.
That's a different mix. Run me through the Tasmanian Devil. What's he like? Smithy, Brandon, is he just flats?
Mate,
is he like that at home? When he's on the field, just flat out?
He just generally doesn't worry about anything. Yeah. So you could do anything, and it would not faze him. He could turn up the training, and Bellyache would give him one of his royal sprays, and it'd just be like water coming off a duck's back. He just
rat's ass, eh?
And if he gave me a spray, I'd be locked in my room for the next week.
In the closet, ringing me mum had me mum on FaceTime, sucking me thumb.
Living with Brody, he was like the mum of the house.
Brody was,
Drinky was just like...
He's Queenslander, Scott, isn't he?
No, he's from Terrigal. So we went down together.
So more rat's ass, Central Coast.
So he was like the younger brother that just loved being the smart ass to everyone.
But how... so you get down to Melbourne. Melbourne's off pre-seasons are notorious for being extremely hard, and I would know. The army camp. Did you do an army camp?
Yeah, I did.
How did that go?
I was pretty full on. I got down to Melbourne, and I would have been about 82 kilos, dripping wet. And
actually, I'll take a step back. Before army camp, is it true that you have to train and work? Did you have to do that?
Yeah.
Run us through that. What goes on there?
So we had to work. Had to get up at 5 o'clock in the morning, go in and do weights, and then work all day, and then come train in the afternoon.
What job were you doing?
So I was me and Joey.
Do they assign you a job? They give you
yeah. So we turned up to this old terrace place. It was about 200 years old, and we look in the backyard and
might have been Bellyache's first time. It was 200 years, same age as Bellyache.
No. It was near the water actually, so it wouldn't surprise me if it was his. And we look in the backyard, and there was just weeds up to waist height, and we had to pull out weeds all day in the rain, and because they do the full scare factor saying, Bellyache could turn up, and if you're not working, and
Bellyache's not turning up, is he?
There's no way in hell he turned up. And I remember it started
but
raining.
But still, it struck fear.
I was scared, but I wasn't as scared as Joey Stimson. He was out there, honestly. It was pissing down rain, and I was like, fuck it, I've had enough of this, honestly. It's just pouring down. I'm going to sit inside of this house until it at least stops raining. And I remember him sitting there going, come on, mate, just get back out here. You've got to pull out all these weeds, mate. Come on, get out of here. And I was like, mate, just put your feet up for 10 minutes and let it stop raining.
Mate, I wouldn't be out pulling weeds in the rain. So you did that for 2 weeks?
Yeah, 2 weeks. So, and then we turn up the training, and all the boys that weren't like that have already done it, so they just turn up and train as well. And I was only, I was light as. I was only about 82 kilos, 83 kilos. And I remember, turning up to my first wrestle session and had Jesse Bromwich staring across me from the other room. And it's no gentleman's club when you're 18. You got to kind of build them relationships. And I remember just absolutely copping it for that, all the way up until the end of my time there in
Mate,
Melbourne.
I obviously went down there about round 4 in 2009. So I didn't do the first pre-season. I did it at the end after we won the comp 09, obviously, albeit salary cap, but we won the comp. And I was a bit older, so I had a few runs on the board, but I was the worst session I've done is the 1 hour wrestle session with Johnny Donoghue. Yeah. I'd rather, you can send me running all day, and I do not, like, as hard as it is, I'm a gut runner, I can run. Yeah. But wrestling, like, I can't tackle, I don't like tackling. And the wrestle session is just awful. I was lucky, and I was petrified of Johnny Donoghue trying to, there's a wrestle coach down there, put me on show and make it. But I had another young bloke who was real mouthy, even more so than me, had a bit of lip on him. So Johnny really targeted him and put him under the pump. How did that go with you? Especially because he tries to challenge young kids, especially the young kids who, you're a confident kid, but also you've got, who's seen as a potential first grader. They challenge him. Let's see how tough he is. Yeah,
it's funny you say that. I remember it would have been first week of full training, and we had this drill, sumos, it's called, and so it's 2 players. You got to stand there and push each other past the line, and I remember going there and I said Curtis, winner, and the next person would come flying in. You'd hit each other and you start pushing each other. Curtis, winner.
Kept you in there, middle.
And he kept going.
And then every time he says that, a fresh opponent comes in.
Yeah, a fresh person would come in, and I remember going further and further back down the gym, and he had a big roller door there at the end of the gym, and after about 4 of them, he was saying, Curtis, winner, and I was getting smashed up against the roller door. And I remember him tapping people on the back going, don't go easy on him, otherwise you're going to cop it. So all they're thinking.
Well, that's what it is too, because you don't want to. Yeah. If you know someone's under the pump and you want to help them out, but if you do help them out, then the spotlight's on you, and that's the fucking last thing you want.
So he kept doing that, kept going saying that, and I got up to about 8, and I was absolutely royally fucking
fisted.
Yeah, I was fucked. And anyway, I was thinking, I'm gone here. Like, I'd rather knock myself out than keep doing this. And it got up to about 8, and I remember coming off the roller door, and this bloke was flying down, and I remember just leading in just with a headbutt, and ended up knocking him out.
Knocking him out
with a head, because I was gone. And I just ended up, and he just said, "Curtis, get out." It left me, and then didn't kick me out of the gym. Just said, "You're out. You're a winner."
Yeah, damn right, you're a winner. That was knocked out. What's and the army camp? What is the? I remember my first army camp. Again, it was. I won the competition the year before, and because I hadn't had a pre-season, they always had a thing you had to do one. So even it's usually for the young kids, but I was 28, 29. I think I was the oldest at the club that year. and I remember Steve Cooney going, mate, do you want to do it? You don't have to do it. Yeah. I said, well, mate, if everyone's done one, for anyone else, I don't want to change it for me. So I went on it. And anyway, the SAG guys or whatever, the guys that take it, Special Forces guys, whatever, they thought I must have been under 20s like everyone else.
Yeah,
I played 250 games, And the bloke goes, and I don't know if it's still the same, but it was all different colours and your different numbers.
Yeah.
So I was purple 1.
Yeah.
So he said something about, are you guys tough enough to take your game to the next level? And I rolled my eyes because he was talking to me like he thought I'd played in the Toyota Cup, the under 20s.
Yeah.
And I just rolled my eyes. He goes, purple 1, are you good enough to even play one first grade game? And I went, oh, mate, if I can make one game next year. And the boys were laughing, and he found out I'd played 250 games. But I just found it so hard mentally, and you're sleep deprived, and it's cold and it's wet. What was your experience? What do you boys have to do?
Well, I was pretty lucky. So I was chomping at the bit. I was my first pre-season, and I was young, and I had something to prove. I had to, show them that I'm not a cat, or I've got to keep going. And but yeah, it was probably one of the most demanding things I've ever done. We had big backpacks on, and we had to walk around whole of Melbourne, and it was about 40 degrees, and we're walking through the main city there, and people's having beers and that up on the along the Yarra River and that, and
really test you.
Yeah, and I'm just looking around. I'd rather be up there doing that, but yeah, it's one of them things where it's it's the hardest thing I've ever done in mentally and physically, but after it's just like a laugh. Some of the stories that come out of the camps is just.
Well, it gets that way, doesn't it? You get angry, you get frustrated, then it's just that ridiculous. It's fun. Mate, Jimmy Maloney, great James Maloney, he was in Melbourne the year I did it, and Jimmy, the second night, so the first night you don't get much sleep. The second night you get no sleep at all. You might get an hour or two the first night, and you train all day. The second night was this path. We were out down the Dandenongs or somewhere, and they'd drop us about a couple of 100 metres off in the bush on the side of this track. You might still do the same.
Yeah.
Drop everyone off. It was a little card, purple 1 there, a couple of 100 metres down, purple 2, all the way for the whole team, people who were on the camp. And you had an iron bar, which was like a gun.
Yeah.
And throughout the night, the special forces guys who were running the camp, they'd come up, and you'd have to stay alert and point the iron bar in my gun, say, hold who goes there. And if they come and touched you, it was a penalty or got to you without seeing. Well, Jimmy Maloney, because you're seeing things out there, you're getting delirious, you're sleep deprived, noises you're in the middle of the bush, you're in the middle of nowhere. And anyway, Jimmy Maloney thought, I'll cover this. He took himself about 10 metres into the bush, laid down and fell asleep. So we've come to pick everyone up, and we're missing one person. No one could find Jimmy, so we go back along the path, and everyone's quiet. You can just hear him snoring up against the trees. Too smart, Jimmy. He didn't get caught. He had an 8-hour sleep. Everyone else was sleeping. But yeah, it certainly is a challenge down there. Did you find that did it get easier the pre-seasons, or this obviously still demanding now?
Yeah, it did. The pre-season did get easier. The first one was definitely the hardest, just because I've just come from SG Ball. I was tackling kids around the same weight as me, and I went down there, and you're training against men, and I wasn't very big at all, and just getting thrown around and copping it. But it's like the pre-seasons were extremely tough, but the army camp, it's just one of them things that you're happy that it's all done, but it's something that I think it's a good experience for every player to experience. So
you get through all that, and it's round 2 versus the Titans in 2016. You make your debut at tender age of 18.
Yeah.
How did that feel? You must have been over the moon.
Yeah, well, that pre-season, I trained extremely hard. I gave Billy the shits all the time, just always asking questions and, asking what I need to do. And I'll probably come into the pre-season miles and miles away from playing, and, just put my head down and just train my ass off. And
then being down there and being successful down there, you'd learn pretty quickly. That's one way to climb the ladder down there is if you work hard and have enthusiasm, that's what Bellyache loves.
Yeah, that's what it's always all stories of they tell you all they coming through and about past players and stuff doing the same thing. So, and then round 2 come around, and I think Billy got injured in round 1. He hurt his shoulder again, and he brought me into his office and just said, "Mate, are you ready to play first grade?" And I probably wasn't even ready, but I remember saying, "Yeah, mate, I'm ready." Yeah, get me on there.
Looking back, you think, nah, but at the time you would have thought, let me at him.
I was thinking, fuck yeah, mate, I'm ready than ever, mate. But then I probably wasn't ready, to be honest, but he ended up putting me in there, and you know, it was unreal. It was, you know, the dream come true. It's a cliche that.
How'd you go? Just have a win? How'd you play?
We versed the Titans, and I remember my first run. I got it and ran straight at Greg Bird, and he picked me up and dumped me about. He took me back further than I ran the ball. But that was a little welcome to first grade, mate. But we ended up getting the win, which was good. And, you know, fortunately I got injured a couple of weeks later and that was it.
Get to that now. But was there any – they always make milestones a big deal in Melbourne, whether it's a 150th game, 200th game, but also debuts.
Yeah.
Do you remember who presented your jumper or anything like that, or did you have?
Beliak presented my jumper, so he you know, just got everyone together. You know what it's like, everyone together, and he just said a few words and said, you know, you've worked hard this pre-season, mate, and you've proved that, you know, you're ready to make your debut, and you gave him a jumper, and it was, you know, one of the proudest moments of my life.
Well, and one thing they do, and I'll take this back to the salary cap year 2010. They thought about giving some people some, you know, rest people and give people opportunities, and they thought, you know what, we don't give away jumpers down here, you know, and just because there's a salary cap, you were playing for nothing, they still make sure anyone who played first grade earned their jumpers. So, like Beliak said, you may be young or whatever age, but if you do play for the Storm, you've certainly earned it in his eyes. Well, you're 18. It looks like you got the world at your feet. You know, you're in a fantastic system in Melbourne. You get the tick of approval from Beliak. 2 weeks later, you're coming up against your former club, the Sharks. How you feeling coming into this game? It was at Shark Park too, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was at Shark Park. You know, I was super excited.
Yeah.
You know, I felt like I had something to prove to them, or try and, you know, rub it in and try and.
Well, just from the gist of you seem very competitive or very, you know, and that's what people use, motivation.
Yeah.
And I did it at times too, to prove people wrong. So, yeah, and you play your former club by the end of my career, every second week I was playing my former club. But you do that drives you to show, well, look what you missed out on. Yeah,
exactly. I was, you know, really excited, and, you know, I've got about 30 tickets that week. All my mates were coming down there, sitting on the Sharkies Hill on the beers and, you know, carrying on, and end up going out there after about 15 minutes. I broke my leg, unfortunately, and I didn't know I was broken, and I just kept limping around out there for about 10 minutes, and I just didn't want my dream to finish the way like that, and I thought it was a cork, and I was singing out to the physios, just needled me up and let me keep going, and I went in at half time, and the doc rubbed his hands down my leg, and you could feel my bone moving in my legs, mate.
Did you feel the bone? Did you?
No, I just thought I was having like spasms in my calf. I don't know why. I don't have much calves.
Well, you don't. I've got none. I've got loose skin behind my shin bone. But it must have been painful. It's a broken leg.
Yeah, well, I didn't really. I've never experienced a serious injury like that, and it was only the little bone in your leg. So,
oh yes, only a little one.
Yeah, so it wasn't the main weight bearing bone, so I couldn't really tell, and I just kept, you know, limping around, and then I think I got taken off just before half time, and that's when they said, and I was absolutely shattered. But yeah,
how did you handle that? You know, you're 18, you break your leg, and you're in another state, another town, then at home on your own. Yeah. Handle it, and it's a full season. You know, you're out. It's round 4, so it's not like the back end of the year. You got the whole season in front of you, and you're on your own as a kid.
Yeah, it was really tough. Like, I've never really experienced anything like that before, so yeah, it was one of the things I didn't really know how to handle it. Yep. So I just didn't know what to do or who to speak to, and I was really frustrated, and, you know, I was, you know, finding other avenues to have fun and stuff like that, and it just was like just a nightmare for us down there while that was going on. But at the time, I still had mum there, and it was, and she helped me out a lot with all that stuff. And then because it wasn't both bones, I wasn't out for the whole season, so I come back at the back end of the year. So it was like the semi-finals for Q Cup. So I went back and played Q Cup, and I ended up rushing the injury, and I come back too early, ended up tearing my calf. And at the time when I tore my calf, there was a few injuries, and I remember being told, mate, you're rushing it and you shouldn't come back this early. And I ended up coming back, so that made me more frustrated. And then there was a few injuries, and then a few other people got a run again in front of me, and I didn't end up playing another game for the rest of that year. And
how frustrating was that? Because the club gets beat by the Sharks in the GF.
Yeah.
And did that add to your frustration in terms of not playing, or did that stoke the fire and motivate you more to go, fuck, I want to be a part of this next year?
Yeah, it did, but I think I was just young, and I just was, just happy to be around them people at training. Like, I was happy to rub shoulders with Cooper and Cameron and Billy, and I remember Scotty Drinkwater, he was with me at the same time, and we were just having fun pretty much. We were happy to just go out and have a beer with them on the weekend, and that was, a lot for us. Like, I never spoke to a first grader or anything the year before, and now I'm
hanging out with
some of the greatest ever, having a beer. So we'd always be, excited about that till after the games, and we'd tag along and hang out with them and that. So, that was probably, the exciting stuff, because when we weren't playing, that's what we could look really forward to.
Well, you certainly got over that excitement of just hanging out with them, because 2017 is a huge breakout year for you individually. Individually, you have a fantastic season. You're one of the best centres in the competition. And as a team, it's one of the most dominant team performances in the history of certainly the NRL era. You're in the preseason. How's it, not only for yourself individually, but as a team? Could you feel something, a bit of extra motivation coming off the loss, or could you feel something building throughout that preseason?
Yeah, well, we got Billy back that year as well, and
that's a great example. Sorry to interrupt you, just with Billy. Billy, in 2017, he rehabbed for 2 years in a row.
Yeah.
And the doctors could not guarantee him that he'd be able to play. The doctors could not guarantee that his shoulder would hold up. For someone who had achieved everything, he still rehabbed just in the hope that he might be a chance to come back in 2017. That must have been hugely motivating for the whole club.
He come back both years with the first group, so he come back with players
kids.
That just all the kids and that. And one of the first things I've seen about Billy, that he was the hardest trainer there, the biggest competitor there. So I've always kind of I've never been the best player, I've never been the biggest, strongest, but I've always liked to think I like to work extremely hard to get to where I want. And going down there, kind of thought, like, why is he doing? Like, he doesn't have to do this. He's
achieved everything.
Yeah, he's been the best fullback in the ever, and he was just so competitive. He would challenge every call, he would challenge everything, and it kind of just pushed everyone around him to think that's the standards around here. So you got to keep up with these standards, and that's something that I learnt from an early age. And coming into that 2017, I remember doing my syndesmosis a week before the season started, so I didn't even come straight into the first grade team. So I was, that's another thing I had to, deal with. I kind of thought that, I do deserve to be here, and just because I got an opportunity the year before, but I kind of had to bite my time again, and I went up to the Q Cup and I ended up getting injured. I was out for 6 weeks with a syndesmosis, and then I come in probably mid-year, just before the Origin started, and I got an opportunity, and I just had the mindset of, it's my time. I need to, cement this and, hang on to my position in the team. And, in Melbourne, everything you do at training is always going to be tougher than the game. So you just refer back to the training and the preseason you've had, and that's what pretty much helped me get, in that side. And
what were your conversations with Craig around? You're obviously the club beat out 10, 11 other rival NRL clubs to sign you. Your debut was as an 18-year-old, a couple of games in break your league. What was the conversations with Craig around going into next year that he seen you being in the first grade side? But obviously you got to work for it and earn your spot. But was he said that left centre position's up for grabs if you want it?
He never really said that. He doesn't really give too much away, Craig, especially, he didn't give too much away with me. He kind of just, it's drilled into you down there. You just got to work hard. And Chase Blair was the centre at the time, and he had an unreal year as well. He just come from Manly, and, he come in and he ended up playing in the grand final. He had an awesome year. And then, so I didn't have a jersey or anything there. So he didn't say, mate, you're going to play first grade next year, anything like that. He just, I just had it in my head that I need to work hard, and I just had that drive that I really want to play first grade. Like I want to be in this team, and kind of that's all I thought about. And I didn't get picked, and it was really frustrating. It was a few, dark time. I didn't have any tools around me. I didn't know any better or any tools or anything. So I learned a lot about myself then, and I'll continue to do that just through, just trying to be resilient and, bounce back and end up getting the opportunity. And, we went on an amazing run, and we ended up winning the grand final. It was one of those things where it's just happened, and, I couldn't really believe it.
Yeah, we'll get to that. The amazing team. It was an amazing performance back end of the year from that side, just dominated everyone all year. But you come in middle of the year, you said, or just before Origin, how many games did it take? Did you, knowing you the way I do, you're a confident kid, but at some stage at the start, did you feel confident straight away, or did it take a few weeks to settle in? Or because you went from the start of the year having one or two games, by the end of the year you're one of the best centers in the top handful of centers in the world at the end of that season. Is there any point you just went, I've got this nailed? When did you feel like you were right at home?
No, I didn't really. I don't know. I just compete. I don't.
Yeah, but you're confident in your ability. Don't you? You back yourself.
I didn't really worry about who I was versing or anything like that. I just focus on myself and competing as hard as I can. And I remember coming up against some, Greg Inglis in a few games, and I was like far out, like nervous as. And Justin O'Neill, I remember playing Justin O'Neill. I think it was my third game, and he was in flying form. I think he was playing Origin in Australia then, and I think just versing them players early, it just kind of gave me the confidence in myself that I can handle it. And
if you can hold up against them, they're the two of the rep players.
And I did have Willie Chambers at training every day. He was.
You're not going to get a tougher test than him.
And he was unreal with me. He was tough. I had to train against their right edge at the time. It was Kafusi, Cooper, Will Chambers, and Suli Vunivalu, and I thought if I can, match these guys at training, then
they're probably the best edge, along with Cronulla's left edge, who had Graham and a few of the boys who sort of certainly stuck it to the Storm right edge, but that right edge was one of the most dominant edge, even before Foose was in there, Kevin Proctor was in there. And you obviously had Billy around the back. That was one of the most dominant edge for the previous half a dozen years.
Yeah, and it was full on, and they just gave me the confidence going into the game and into games each week, and Will, everyone knows what Will's like. He always doesn't give you an inch, or doesn't even give you
nothing.
He doesn't give you the slightest bit of confidence.
He's going to physically try and hem you. He's going to mentally try and hem you. Verbally, he'll take you on anyway, Will.
Yeah, exactly. So,
that's a great. Like, I look at Will, and he's one of my best mates. And where he's come from, it's a great story. I'd love to get him on the podcast when he gets back from Japanese rugby. It's a hell of a story where he come from, but that's what he's about. It's a great model for young kids that he gives no one an inch at training. Off the field, he's a lot of people who aren't Storm fans, they hate him. Or New South Wales, because you see him as one of them. But you love playing with him. He gives you nothing. But that's what he is. He's a bit like you're talking about. He got his spot and he weren't giving it up to anyone. Yeah,
exactly. He was if you did get something on him, he would just bring you back down some other way if it wasn't spraying you or paid you out. You know exactly where you stood when you were with Will, and that was probably unreal for me. Every little confidence I had at training, if I was cheeky or anything to him, he would just put me straight back into my place. He was ruthless, but I can't thank him enough for doing stuff like that.
Well, you talk about that right edge. Well, by the end of the year, a young bloke jumps out of the fullback position and plays 5'8", and that left edge, you sign a bloke from West Tigers to play on the left wing. By the end of the year, the left edge is not too bad either. There's Tohu Harris in back row, bloke by Cameron Munster plays 5'8". You're in the left centre, and then the left wing's Josh Adekar. That's a pretty deadly combination. So by the end of the year, that left-hand side's just as good, if not better than the right-hand side.
Yeah, it was crazy. I think Josh only played, it was his first breakout year. He only played a handful of games, and Munster was pretty similar as well. And Tohu was probably, he was the leader on that edge there, but I think we just weren't worried about too much at all. Like, I remember, like Munster, we know how Munster plays. He doesn't care. He just backs his ability. And
how easy to play with as a 5'8", because as a 5'8", he's originally a fullback, but a runner of the footy. But he's a 5'8" now. Is he very structured? He looks, does he call the gaps you run at, or you sort of just got to instinctively try and play off him and watch what he does and react to what he does? Yeah,
well, some weeks at training that our side would drop every play, going like edge v edge, but then we'd get into the game and everything just clicked. I think it was just, we must have all played a lot of backyard footy when we were younger, and that's what we pretty much went from. But Munter, it was his first time at 6, and he was unreal, like in the position, and we just all just kind of clicked on the field. And me and Joshy Addo-Carl, we're all close mates. I'm probably one of the main reasons why he went down to Melbourne, or Greg or something to give me just a thank you or something. But we were close mates, so we just had that bond from the start. And we just just played footy, and we just flowed, I suppose, and things just happened, and we had Cameron at 9 and Cooper on the other side, and so they'd manage everything, and then when we'd get opportunities, we'd just take them, and it was just one of them things.
Now you was going on a run and you smashed the Cowboys in the grand final, and you score a fantastic try. So you're 18, you won the comp. 19, sorry.
19, yeah.
Oh, so old, 19. You've won the comp and you scored a try in a grand final. Mate, that's just the stuff dreams are made of.
Yeah, it was one of them things, mate. No, I couldn't really believe it, but I did reflect on all the hard work I had to do to get to where I had to get to. It wasn't easy, mate, and it was really tough. But them moments, it was just, I remember just hanging out with Cooper a fair bit that year as well. He kind of took me under his wing and he looked after me, and that I just hung around him and just soaked it all in, mate. And it just happened, and still living off it.
I'm still living off 09 and we got taken away. It's not living in the record books, and I'm still living off it. So it didn't even happen, and I'm still pretending it happened. 2017, but the team, I'm a footy nerd. I grew up with footy. I could tell you who won most competitions and who was man of the matches. I look at that 2017 team. I put it in my top 3. I think the 98 Broncos team, they had like 11 internationals. That 2017 team, it's as good a first grade team, or as dominant. Everyone's going to have their favourite teams or different eras. It's hard to compare eras, but that's as dominant a team. You were saying on the way in, you won the last 6 or so games, you won by 30 plus. You just blew them all off the park. You look back now, I suppose as you get older, just how good that team was.
Yeah, it was unreal, mate. It was it's just one of them. It was one of them things where I just pretty much was locked in and just hang on for dear life and just enjoy the ride. It was just unbelievable, really, mate. I can't really put words to it because it just happened so quick for me. I just come in and we just dominating and winning every game, and I just thought this is how it is.
How easy is it?
Yeah, well, how easy is this? Well, anyone can do. Yeah. And then it was unreal. We won the grand final, and then I don't even really remember playing in the grand final. It was just, and then after the game, I definitely wiped my memory. But it was it was just one of them things where it was a big blur, and I'm grateful for it, mate.
Righto. So, like you said, then you win the grand final. You're 19 years of age, for crying out loud. I won it at 28, and I carried on like a good sort. I'm still carrying on, still celebrating. How were the celebrations? Because as a kid, and probably blokes like it, me and you are pretty similar in how we are, and I see a lot of myself as well as like at your age with terms of mentality. A part of what you love about footy and about sport is the celebration with your mates and socialising with your mates, and it's that environment as a rugby league environment is great because, like you said with Chambers, it's a great leveller. If you're carrying on like a pork chop, Someone will pull you down, and there's a sort of no dickhead policy. But the great thing about being in team environment is celebrating success. Now, you're celebrating the ultimate goal. You win the grand final. How were those celebrations? Was it like you go back in the sheds and your whole family's there? I remember being in the sheds and you're singing the song Smithy's on that esky, and you got the, and it sings like how was that?
Yeah, it was surreal. Like we all come in and we all grabbed a beer and we're singing the song, and everyone was going off over the moon, and it was just one of the things where you just hang on for young and old and see how many beers you can put away from Sunday till Thursday, and whenever everyone pulls up. And I remember we'll you know what it's like, everyone having a good time and that, and we're all drinking at a place. It was on the Thursday, and on a Thursday, and we're all on the beers there. We're all weathered as, and I was with Jesse Bromwich and a few other boys, and we were talking about booking a trip to Bali. And I remember I had a partner at the time, and like my family were messaging me and stuff. They were like, "Are you all right? Like,
still alive?
Are you still alive?" And all I was replying was like, "Did I just win a grand final or not?" Question mark. And anyway, me and Brendan Smith ended up booking a flight to Bali, and we ended up in Bali after 4 days of drinking, and my parents didn't even know I was there, or anyone knew I was there, and they seen a photo of me in Bali, and like, mate, what
are you doing in Bali?
What the fuck are you doing in
Is this
Bali?
photoshopped?
And then I ended up, crew cars, and I had to end up coming home early from the trip, but I ended up in Bali after it all, so it was a fair celebration.
That's a pretty good celebration. That's certainly topped me. Did Molly have a party? Is he still having these parties, Molly? I know he was cooked there for a while, so they might have knocked it on the head. Yeah,
we didn't actually have a party at Molly's. We had an end of pre-season party at his joint, and but we never actually had a party after the grand final that year. I think he was sick. Yeah, you got a few stories.
My shenanigans there probably knocked that on the head. But how's that? That sort of, now you've got that. I find, that's a bond you're going to have for life. It's a 2017 gang. It's no matter what happens, you've achieved the ultimate goal. You climbed to the top of the mountain.
Yeah, you know what it's like coming down for the old boys and stuff like that. They celebrate that stuff really well, and it's just going to be good. When it's all said and done, and 10 years down the track, you can go down there and we all have that connection that with the 2017 grand final, and we'll all get together and be like where we left off, and we'll have a beer and laugh and joke about all the stories and stuff. So it's just something that I'm going to be a part of forever, and it's something that's the joy about rugby league, where everyone goes their separate ways, but you still have that connection, and I'm lucky enough to have that connection with winning the grand final.
Some of the greats.
Yeah, with some of the greats.
And it was the last game for the Big Three. I played with the Big Three. Obviously, when I was there, it was the Big Four. I was a part of it. I think when I left a spot for Cooper to come into the Big Three. But I actually seen firsthand. I was at the back end of my career, so I probably had a good opportunity where I knew what the game was about, and I could really appreciate how good these guys were. What was it like being involved? Not only playing with those guys, but that was I made it quite clear Cooper was going to leave, and that was the last time three of these absolute champions were going to play together. Yeah, it was like I remember turning up day one pre-season, and I remember coming to the sheds and Billy Slater come up to me, and I had this little locker right down the end of the sheds, and he come up and said, "Hey mate, I'm Billy Slater," and shook my hand. You're like, yeah, no shit. And I was sitting there like, oh shit, like, hey Billy, how you going? And just excuse me, what was your name again? And I was like, you don't have to tell me your name, mate. I've looked up to you my whole life, but that's just the type of people they are. They're just so humble, and they're always looking to help out other people, and just set an example for everyone around the place. And to get the opportunity to play with them is just, it was one of them things where I couldn't believe I was actually doing it. I was getting sprayed at Billy at training, or getting sprayed on the field by Cooper, and I was just like, shiver down my spine. I'm like, how good's this? Yeah. This is what, I've always, wanted to do, and I couldn't believe that I was actually playing, with the Big Three, and Melbourne was the last place I ever thought I would end up and play football, and
growing up in Cronulla and stuff, I thought I'd just, hang around there and play and, try and, crack it in Cronulla, and ended up in Melbourne with them type of players. It's just, one of them things where couldn't believe it.
Yeah, and they had the same effect. Like I said, I went down there at 28, so they were 26 at the time. So I was older than them. You're coming in younger than them.
Yeah.
And I remember Smithy, and they had already achieved so much. The first thing I seen was how hard all three of them worked, the work ethic, and they had already achieved so much. This was 10 years ago.
Yeah.
11, and they'd already achieved so much then. I remember Smithy came up to me before one game, like could have been the following week, and he goes, mate, Finchy, how do you think we should play this team? What's your idea? How do you think we should break them down, or how do you think we should attack them? And I'm sitting there going, mate, I'm thinking, why are you asking me? You're the smartest player in the game. And he may not have really given a rat's ass what I've said, and he may not even have listened. But by the fact that him asking me straight away, I was like, you give a shit about my opinion. Yeah. Well, there's no way I'm letting you down now.
Yeah.
You've got me, because you value my opinion. He may not have and probably didn't. Yeah. But him just asking me questions, just from a leadership point of view, just a little thing like that, coming up to a bloke who's older. So it's easy to influence younger blokes because they watch you as an older player, but he's influenced someone older, and he got me on board straight away, and I would have been on board anyway, but I just found that such good technique that he wanted my opinion on something, so straight away I'm thinking, well, you're the best. Looking back now, he probably didn't need it or he didn't listen, but he wanted my opinion, so I'm like, there's no way I'm letting you down. I'm all in for this club now, and I thought that's what all three of them had. They've all got different personalities. But they're all adaptable, whether you're talking to an old guy or a Polynesian guy, an Indigenous kid, a young kid down here, like ages, races, religions, they could bond or relate to anyone.
Yeah, they had that effect on, especially young players coming in. Like everyone's just in an awe of just like, I'm actually here training with these people. So, and then when you're training with them, like you said, you don't want to let them down. So at training, and they're setting the example, so they're not like missing training or just sitting behind with the coaches calling the drills. They're
leading everything.
Yep. So you got to think, well, if I don't keep up, then I'm just going to be pushed out. So that's just the effect. So I think that's why they've been so well.
Why was that team so good? Why were you so obviously talent? You had a tremendously talented side, but you had played 2 games before that season started. No one had heard of fucking Adokar.
Yeah.
Oh, the Fox have played a couple of games at South. Tigers.
Yeah.
Sulis from Fiji.
Yeah.
Tohu, like these blokes, Kafusi's come, that's his first year or two he's come through there. Why were you so good? Why was this team so dominant? What made you so special?
I think that preseason that year was, really tough, that they ended up losing the 2016 grand final, and I think they just all end up having that fire in the belly for that 2017 grand final, and everyone was, back at training together reasonably early. So we had the core group there, everyone training early. I think it was when was the World Cup? Was it
2017? Wasn't it?
2017. Yeah. So they didn't have World Cup or a lot of rep commitments after the year, and everyone was back as a core group early, and they just had that fire in the belly that, we want to go one better this year, and the preseason was tough. Bellyache, flogged us as he usually does, and we just went into the year having the confidence, and you need a bit of luck. We didn't have any real big injuries
back end of the year.
Yeah, we had a good run going into it, and everyone just was on the same page and wanted to. We had the mixture between the boys that were nearly they're older, and then they had thinking, well, we might not have this opportunity again, and we had young blokes like me, Josh, and Munster thinking, and Munster, and he played in the year before, but we had Nelson and Sofa Solomona, he was coming in, and I remember him tapping on my shoulder and going, mate, let's go one more this year, and let's achieve it.
Imagine, I can only imagine playing behind Big Nelson, Jesse. Well, I played with Jesse, but then there's Jesse and Macca, Jordan McLean.
Yeah.
But they're just the land of the giants, I would have just been bagging that many opposition players knowing I had those blokes to protect me. But the coach, what did you see about Bellyache? What did you think he was such a good coach? What impressed you most about your time with under Craig?
He just had the clear message. He just told you your job, and if everyone's doing their job properly, that, it'll be a hard team to we'll be a hard team to beat, and the standards of doing your job will right up there. Like you could go out there and score 2 tries, but if you turn out on a dummy, then you're coming into the meeting with your head between your legs.
Did you ever have them days where you did that and you go into the video like 2 days later going, I bet you this is, and you're looking for your name on the video?
I dread it. I remember I missed a dummy at training one day. I was training out of position. I think I was training in the halves, and he sprayed me for about 2 minutes after we finished the drill, and he was still spraying me. It was like someone was behind me slapping me in the back of the head. I could just feel him breathing down my neck. But that's just the standards they set there. They're so high, and you train so hard, so you have to meet the standards, and you had them players around you pushing the standards as well. So I think that's what makes him and that club so good down there.
Yeah, well, in between there, you made the Australian under-23 side in the centre, and you make the World Cup team, the World Cup Nines. That must have been a good experience to be a part of.
And that was last year.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Yeah. It's in between then and now.
Yeah, but that year I ended up breaking I made the president side. Yeah, and then I broke my foot. I broke my foot in the game, so I couldn't even go on the 9s or the 23s. Oh,
do you still get the?
Nothing. I've got kicked to the curb.
Kick the curb like when I try and get home after hours and the missus kicks me out. Well, mate, we go to November 29 last year. You signed with the Raiders. Now, for someone like myself, this came from left field. Not just I thought you were going to be in Melbourne. Was that the case, or was this something in the works, or how did you end up in Canberra?
I remember breaking my foot that year, that season, and I didn't have a very good year. Like I broke my foot and I was out for a long time, and I kind of was struggling a little bit down there just with a few things, and I just thought it was good to try and get back to Sydney and be closer to family. And my manager again said, "Man, I think it's I don't want you back in Sydney just yet, so we'll send you to Canberra."
Step by step.
So it's been
make your way back up the Hume.
Yeah.
Surprised lucky you didn't play for the Wagga Kangaroos before you forgot Canberra.
Oh, mate, I'm looking like that at the
moment. But you go to Canberra, and what was your first impressions there? How did it all come about? Did you approach Canberra, or Canberra approached you?
I remember my manager, because me and my manager were kind of talking that maybe my time's up in Melbourne and we've got to look going somewhere else. And Canberra had a outstanding season, and it was kind of one of them things. It was like overnight. It was we had a few options, and I was happy to stay in Melbourne and stuff like that. But my manager called me and he said, Ricky's called me up and they're interested in getting you down to Canberra, or getting you up to Canberra from Melbourne. And I thought, I don't really want to live in Canberra. I've only heard bad things. It's cold in winter and boiling hot in summer, but I kind of wanted to get closer to my family. Yeah. And I remember I was up in Sydney at the time, and Ricky called me up himself, and he said, "Hey mate, we're interested in getting you down to Canberra." And I was a little bit worried. I was like, "Oh, you just have good centres, and you've just played in a grand final." And he's like, "Oh no, mate, we want you to come check it out." And I thought, Ricky's well respected. Coach and player in the game, and I thought, we may as well go check it out. And I went down there, and it was a good town, and it's a town. It's not really cities. It was a good city, and I liked it down there. And
what were your first impressions of Stick?
No, they were good, because he was trying to sign me, so I didn't have to impress him. No. He's got to impress me. So he was.
Stick always likes a beer. Did he take you for a beer? You've had a few with him since, have you?
Yeah, I've had a couple. I went down there and I was with my old man, and my old man loves a punt, and Sticky owns some racehorses and stuff. And my dad had the form guide hanging in his back pocket the whole time, so I think my old man was more excited to meet him.
Sticky would have gone beautiful. Comes through the punting angle.
Yeah, so he kind of had us from then, and then we went for a feed and had a beer, and we just had a chat about things, and I was sold on the place, and then next thing you know, I moved down there, and it's been unreal since.
What impressed you about the team? What were the things? Obviously, you spoke about coming to Melbourne, and they've got those guys we spoke about. The Raiders just come off a breakout season themselves. Canberra have been a team for a long time now. They've had that group of players that have been together for a while, and they've had that performance. The grand final last year, that in them. And they've been a bit inconsistent, but I thought they really shown great consistency last year and again this year. But What impressed you most about the team and the players that were down there?
It was kind of similar to Melbourne. It was like I've never been in a team where the boys have been so like close. Like everyone's just tight as, and just because it's a small town and there's not really overly too much to do, so everyone kind of hangs out with each other, and it's just such a tight knit group, and that's something I want to be like. That's something that I've always been a part of. Like I've always had a close group of mates. I'm close with my family, and just going to a place like that, knowing that everyone's close together, everyone hangs out together, it's just something that I want to be a part of, and it's been good down there.
Well, and I can speak from experience talking about someone starting a new club. So you're down there, you're pumped, you want to start a new club, you want to get off on the right foot. Then Australia Day this year happens. And it's an amazing story. It's a crazy story. And I don't know if amazing is the right word, for lack of a better word. But where you've had to, what you've gone through and what you've had to pull yourself through and put up with is quite unbelievable. But you go down to a new club and your world's turned upside down overnight. You get up the next morning and it hits you. You've been charged with 6 offences, including 2 counts of assaulting an officer. How are you feeling the next day, next morning? You wake up. How has the magnitude do you understand how big it is? Do you know the reaction in the media? What's the feeling straight away?
I remember I was in jail. I was in a cell, so I was sitting there, and I remember asking the police officer. I said, "Well, what's going on? When can I go home?" And she goes, "Oh no, you're not going anywhere. You've been charged with 6 offences." And I remember being like extremely angry because I knew in myself that I didn't do it. I knew that they're the things that I wouldn't do. I'm not a I've made. So
did you know you have a big night, and mate, you have a big night, but you wake up and sometimes you can't remember. Do you think because they've 6 charges, so you think sure I must? You're thinking, are you starting to think I can't remember? I'm sure I've done nothing wrong, but
no,
I must have, or do you know clearly you were fine?
Like I'm not saying I'm a saint or anything like that, or
I am,
but I remember just knowing in myself that I wouldn't punch or kick or assault a police officer. Like I know right from wrong, and it was just one of them things where I was so angry. I was just sitting in the cell thing, just thinking like I haven't done this. I wasn't even really thinking about what the media were doing and stuff like that.
So straight away they tell you what they've charged you with?
Yeah.
So what? Can you believe it? What's your thought process? Are you dumbfounded or are you thinking fucking...
I'm just thinking,
what's going on
bullshit. Here? That's like, I haven't done that. But I kind of just sat there and I didn't argue or anything with him. I just sat there and just had to wait. I was in there for, I got let out about 12 o'clock the next day, and I remember just getting into my car. My sister come and pick me up, and I remember going home, and my brother and dad were there, and we're all a real tight family and that. So I just went into my my brother's room, and I just sat down in his room, and I just cried to myself. Like I just was like in my bed, just like. And this is when like all the media and stuff like that were just absolutely hounding me, and I didn't have I couldn't come out and say, hey, this is not true or this is not what happened, but because it was a court. It was a law case at the time, so I just had to sit back and cop it. And it was a bit weird because Kobe Bryant died the same day I got in trouble, and I had the front page, full front page, the full back page, and the full double spread.
And one of the biggest sports stars ever.
And we've just had one of the greatest sports stars of all time. And I just couldn't believe that I was absolutely just copping it, and he just had a little square down the bottom, and I was like I haven't,
How hard was it for your family to sit back and tell your family, and how hard was it for them in those early stages?
Oh, my family are all pretty rock solid. Mum was, disappointed at the start until I told her, what really happened, and but. Just like my brother's partner and stuff, she works in the NRL, and she'd turn up to like conferences and stuff, and everyone would just be like, "Oh, what's going on?" My old man would go up to the pub, and people would be like, "Oh, there's Craig, it's Curtis' son, his son's fucking logging coppers and that." But but they're all pretty rock solid, and they all just, they're all really rock solid, and they just stuck by me and just pretty much told them to get
piss off.
Yeah.
What was the conversation with Sticky like? Because Sticky's, I talk about some of the blow-ups I with Sticky, but Sticky, when me and Sticky were good, we were great, and obviously went through some times where we weren't successful, so we clashed, but he will stick by you, and he does, he sticks by people, he's very good like that, very supportive. But you're new, you haven't even fucking kicked the ball for him yet, you haven't even laced on a boot, you haven't put a jumper on, they're coming off a grand final, and a new player comes in. How was that conversation with Sticky?
Yeah, it was tough. He just said to me, mate, just tell me the truth and I'll stick by you, because he goes, I don't miss anything in your story or make any bullshit up, because I'm going to go in and bat for you, and if I find out that
you'll get life. He'll give you life.
Yeah, and he just said that, and I told him the exact truth, what happened, and he stuck by me through it all, and he went into bat for me. It would have been extremely tough for him. He was the one that had to face all the questions, and he probably would have flogged his dog a few times after a few training days, or his missus wouldn't talk to him for a week, because the amount of times I've sent him home with the shits, it was endless. And he stuck by us through it all, and it come to a crunch point there where he's up front with everything, and he just tells you how things are, and that's what I needed. Yeah.
Now after a little period, a couple of weeks, the media are obviously reporting what the police are doing, and they've virtually, for lack of a better word, you're painted a monster. You're painted as some bloke who's on the drink fighting, assaulting people. How hard is it then just to even walk down the street or go out for dinner or get some bread or go watch a movie? Or
I didn't. I was inside for months. I wasn't allowed out. Like I didn't go out until last week. It was the first time I've been out since it happened, and it was really tough, because everyone has their opinion, and no one even considered even thought about my story or anything. And had rugby league personalities coming out on the radio, coming out on the news saying, "Oh, this bloke shouldn't even be playing rugby league. This bloke shouldn't be here," and just no one considered anything of my
side.
Yeah, or even thought, hang on a minute, like
how. And the charges. I remember sitting at home, and we're good mates. And I remember ringing Pete Robertson from the Storm. I said, "Mate, can you send me Scooter's number? I'll give him a call." This was like a couple of days after it. And I'm thinking with Ellie, I said, "Mate, I just want to see the kids all right, But I'm still sort of thinking, because what the charges were, so I understand sometimes there's two sides to every story, but you're thinking with these charges, he must have done something wrong.
Yeah.
So I still try to get hold of him. That time, you've already changed your number. You've thrown that phone in the shit house. It's obviously been blown up. But you're sort of thinking, something must. They can't make these charges up, which in the end they virtually did. How hard was that?
Yeah, well, they just painted the picture.
It was, wasn't it?
Yeah, they just painted the picture, which is their job. I understand.
Not to make stuff up, but
Yeah, but I've probably sent their kids to private schools after this year amount of stories they've wrote on me, and they're driving Mercedes Benz around. Haven't even got a thank you for that. But anyway, it was tough, mate. I'm not going to sit here and say it wasn't tough. I was okay, and it was extremely tough. Where some days I didn't want to get up, or even didn't even want to go to training, or didn't even care if I woke up or not. You know what I mean? I just was at that point where I thought, no one.
So that's how bad it got. So mentally, that's pretty heavy. That's how dark the spots you got.
Yeah, and yeah.
And at no time, no one sat there and tried to hear your side. Because even that's the same time, there was a decision whether the NRL were going to let you play. Yeah. So imagine you got stood. We know the outcome now, but imagine you got stood down. Is it you just sitting there, just going, "This is a fucking joke"?
Yeah, well, because the NRL seen the footage, and that's what got me the tick of approval to play. And even then, no one even considered.
Why didn't they come out even more and support you? Say the whole thing's a joke.
They didn't even. Yeah, it's I'm not going to sit here and feel sorry for myself
Yeah.
and say, oh, boo-hoo, Curtis.
And I'm not saying that, but it's still what you shouldn't have to
Yeah.
go through what you did. And, you
Yeah.
know, it was a dark time in your life. It was hard for you mentally, obviously.
Yeah, well, yeah, I did put myself there, and I've put my hand up the whole time, and I've said that, you know, I did put myself in that position, and, you know, I would deal with it. But, you know, they just put up photos of me, like, punching Dylan Walker. And
Yeah, it's just irrelevant too.
Yeah, and they just send people down that path that, you know, he's a fighter. He's a he just loves going out trying to punch people, and he's hit the coppers and that. But, yeah, it was just one of them things that, you know, I learned a lot about myself through that time, and, you know, I can sit here and say that it's made me a better person, and it's made me realise how lucky I am to be, you know, in the position I am.
I'll tell you what else you'd learn. You'd learn out pretty quickly who your friends are.
Yeah.
Wouldn't you?
Yeah. Well, I had some of my closest mates I've known for years. When the actual footage come out, they've messaged me and they've said, mate, like, I'm sorry. Like, I've just genuinely thought you've had a stuff up, and, like, I'm sorry for not supporting you through it all. I've just thought that, you know, you actually done it. I was just thought, yeah, like, the media done a good job. But, yeah, I did find out who my closest mates are, and I'm lucky that I was at the Canberra Raiders because, you know, they're a real tight bunch of fellas down there, and, you know, all the boys had my back from the start, and, you know, I'm always forever grateful for that.
September 9, I think it was, this year, the body cam footage is released proving your innocence, and it's absolutely sent shockwaves through the game. The charges that were even put in place in the first place, and what you have gone through for 9 months of that season. When did you first see that footage?
It was actually when everyone else seen it, so I didn't want to watch it. Or
how hard was that? I'm only putting myself, if I'm your brother or your dad or your mum, I'm a mate, and I'm sitting there and I got really upset by it. You know, it was hard to watch.
Yeah, I've kind of just, like, after the year, I've just been a bit, like, numb. I don't really let too much get to me, or don't let myself get close to anything really. I just pulled myself away. But the hardest thing was watching my family see it. And seeing their reaction. That was the hardest thing. Seeing my mum, you know, break down, seeing my brother, you know, break down as well when they see it. That was the hardest thing for me. But I thought that I, you know, went through the worst of it. So when the footage came out, I was just kind of didn't have that feeling about it.
And to look back to what you had to go through for that whole 9 months, were you angry? Because I know I would have been fucking filthy.
Yeah,
I was angry for you, you know. And I'm not saying we're close mates, but we've been mates for a few years.
Yeah,
and yes, the first reaction mine when I said it, I was upsetting. You know, I was upset. I remember with my missus, I was really upset by it. But then you're angry. Yeah, and mate, we I don't know if this is a rap for you or for me, or a slap in the face for me, but we're mentally on the same. We get on great, you know, even though I'm a lot older. We're very similar, but you're still a kid, mate. You're 22, and that's what pisses me off more. You know, like, you're a 22-year-old kid and you've gone through this, and it's all bullshit.
Yeah.
You should not have had to go through one day of it. Did that make you angry? You know, does it? Yeah. What was your reaction to it all?
Yeah, it was just like the media just, you know, they just stripped me to nothing pretty much. They broke me down to bare nothing, and it does make you angry, but I didn't really have too much energy to be even angry. I was just so, like,
drained.
Yeah, drained, and I was just, like, felt like helpless. But I was angry at some of the past players that have played in the game, and they walk around and they say whatever they want, and they act like they act like they act like they've never ever been a young kid before, and they're happy to point the finger and say, "Oh, you're a fucking idiot. You shouldn't be playing in the NRL and stuff." But they just forget about them being kids and, you know, what happens.
And you didn't do anything wrong either.
Yeah, well, I did put myself in that situation.
You fell asleep under a tree. Come on, that's not.
Yeah, there's a few. I'm sure there's been a few people that done that.
Most of us have done that. Mate, has anyone from the authorities rang and apologised?
Nah, no one really. Yeah, no
Nice of them to put you through that.
No one's really apologised. Not anyone's apologised, but that's life, mate. You can't expect too much of people these days.
That's what I say to me, Mrs. Don't expect too much from them. Set the bar low. And amongst all this, and it's a year from hell. Amongst all this, you're still expected to play footy.
Yeah.
I'm the Canberra Raiders. I still expect you to play footy. I pay you money.
Yeah.
How in the world are you supposed to play footy?
Yeah, I just try my best, mate.
But how did it affect just footy? How did it, earlier you're just talking about how dark it got and how hard the days you didn't even know if you wanted to wake up or care if you did or how you're feeling.
Yeah.
How are you then supposed to pull yourself out of that because we spoke about how hard it is to be an NRL player. NRL is hard when life's good.
Yeah.
Let alone when you're dealing with what you had to deal with.
Yeah, the hardest thing was having your name in everyone's mouth. Once it's in there, it's hard to, get it out. So if the team didn't perform the best, it would come back on me.
Yeah.
Just that's what it felt like. It would feel like that if I missed one tackle or done one thing wrong, then it was my fault.
We were talking earlier about how you weren't even playing and the team lost and you got bat. They said it was your fault. You weren't even playing.
Yeah, there was some fans, I didn't play a game and ended up getting rolled and I'm copping it on social media. That's
as good as it gets. You weren't even on the field.
But it was one of the things. It just it made me more resilient and like it was hard. At the time, I just try and tell lies to myself and say, yeah, I'm sweet. This is all good. Like it's I just need to do this. But I kind of went away from little things that I stopped doing, and that's what affected me. Just because I wasn't motivated, I wasn't worried. I was just like, fuck everyone.
Because I'm sure there wasn't a day go by when you're not worried and dealing with the other shit that's in your head.
Yeah,
concentrate on footy.
Yeah, the worst things was when you get in the court fees the day before a game and you think, oh, fuck.
You're supposed to pay for that.
Yeah, where is this coming from?
Lucky you're on about 900,000. But that adds to all your mental health, doesn't it? The stress and you've got to do this to clear your name and you've done nothing wrong. Surely that adds to your frustration and anger and this position you're in. You're now got to defend yourself when you've done nothing wrong. Yeah,
well, the club come to me when just about court because we had a few plea deals and stuff like that, and we weren't asking for much. We were just asking for our court fees to be covered, and this can go away. And the club said to me, which I understand completely, that they say if you get charged with one of these assaults or resisting arrest, then we're going to have to. We can't have someone like that in the NRL, and I would have been, sacked, and so I had to put, a 4-year contract at the time.
What's your livelihood?
Yeah, on the line to, clear my name, and if one of the charges stuck, I would have, been digging holes. So
that's how big. That's crazy. Well, moving forward, mate, how you going now at the moment? Obviously, you got the busted peg, but in terms of your headspace mentally, how you feeling? Because it's been a big toll on you.
Yeah, no, I'm going all right, mate. It's good to be back home up in Sydney and that, and good to see your mates and stuff like that. So I'm just trying to relax over this off season, keep myself in a bit of shape, and then go down and look forward to having a really big 21 season. So that's the main goals.
And you're out of the bubble. You obviously spoke about how close you are to your family, and mates are great, but no matter what situation, it would have been good to get back to mum and dad, mate. Must be.
Yeah.
Good to spend time with them.
Yeah, no, it was good. Finally getting back up here and seeing them all. I moved to Canberra to be closer with them, but I probably didn't see him. I didn't see him at all with the bubble at all. So, especially going through all the stuff as well, you didn't really have. I was in Canberra at a new club, living on my own, and it was just good to finally get back up here and see everyone.
How good a support have they been, your parents?
Yeah, they've been rock solid through it all. Like my old man and my mum. It's just said, fucking don't worry about it, mate. We've all been there, and my brother as well, my sister. So,
Any chance, mate, if we go for a beer this afternoon that we're going to end up in Bali? You got plans to go away anywhere? Or
mate, with you, anything's possible.
I know
mate.
You can't holiday. Well, that's probably a good thing now. We can overseas travel. It's a bit restricted. You might not end up in Bali, but have you got plans to get away or go anywhere?
I'll probably just try and get up the coast somewhere, put the feet up and just get a bit of sun.
Looking ahead, 2021, you've been driven, you've been motivated. How's the motivation now? How's that fire inside to go, fucking, you think I'm done, you think you've seen the last of me. How's that motivation, that fire? Because I look back to a couple of years ago, or even 12 months ago, before the injury. Freddie's talking to you about New South Wales. You got the Kangaroos jumper in your sights. How's the fire inside to get back there and get those jumpers?
Yeah, I'm ready, mate.
Yeah.
I'm ready to prove everyone wrong and shut everyone up. So, I'm just looking forward to getting down to Canberra and because I've got to repay that club. I won't be able to because the amount of support they've shown me. I've got to get out there and perform, and I don't like letting anyone down. So I'm going to have to get down there and rip in and show them that the same respect that they showed me through all this. So ready to
And they're going all right at the moment. The Raiders, we get a fit and healthy Curtis Scott in. What do you prefer, left or right centre?
Oh, doesn't worry me. It doesn't worry me really. Right side is probably the side I like to hold the ball and stuff like that, but left side I like defending over there, so it's one or the other.
Yeah, I used to love defending or just getting run over, one of the two. Mate, I want to thank you so much for joining Uncensored. It's great to see you back in a good space. What you had to go through, you shouldn't have had to go through, but you appreciate your honesty. You don't even look to make excuses. I love the passion you talk about your footy with, because I do the same. And mate, there's no doubt when you're fit and healthy and playing your best footy, you're going to be, you're an Origin and Australian star. So we thank you very much for taking time out. Let's hope if we go for lunch this afternoon.
End up in Bali, Seminyak.
Yeah, we could end up in New York. Who knows with me and you? But I really appreciate you taking time out here, mate. And we hope you have a good break. Put your feet up, enjoy time with your family, and have a big 2021, brother. So thanks for joining.
Thanks for having me.
Cheers, brother.
Appreciate it.